Once dubbed the Paris of the East, Shanghai was China's first modern, financial, and multicultural center. Since the early 20th century, Shanghai was essentially a bridge connecting China with the rest of the industrializing world. As such, Shanghai would become home to a large number of Europeans and Americans. By the 1930s, an infusion of Western culture such as fashion, cinema, and music had become the hottest trend in this bustling city. As the infusion of different cultures expanded in Shanghai, the city became a veritable melting pot. At first, musicians from the West simply performed the same music from their homeland, but eventually, a musical evolution took place, one that incorporated traditional Chinese melodies with the progressive sounds of American jazz, and one that took the urban music market by storm. This form of music, called yellow music, was created by composer Li Jinhui. Li fashioned this new genre by combining interwoven Western jazz scales with Chinese pentatonic folk tunes, along with a string-heavy band and melodies sang by a childlike female voice. Yellow music was wildly popular for this decadent fusion of American jazz, Hollywood film music, and Chinese folk forms. Like its American jazz counterpart, yellow music was born of fusion and dissonance. Traditional jazz itself was a fusion of the soulful blues, St. Louis ragtime, and the French melange of New Orleans. Further, jazz was created by the introduction of dissonance, which breaks the musical belief that chords must follow a standard harmonious pattern. Through such dissonance, jazz is the epitome of rebellion, where the American underclass gave voice and power to their plight. American jazz became the musical embodiment of what would follow in the transformative decades, such as the rise of human rights in the States. Perhaps the dissonance found in jazz is like the one we find in nature. Even Charles Darwin realized the power of dissonance in his theory of natural selection, and its ability to allow for the strengthening of a species. Maybe it's this very component that attracts our ears and hearts to jazz, and it cannot be contained. The power of yellow music was feared by those who wanted to squelch the ideas of Western thought. Hence, it was marked as indecent and something that needed to be controlled. Yellow music was thus given its name by critics, as yellow, or 黄色, refers to something which is pornographic. The political powers at the time were threatened by yellow music's dominance in the media, and after the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949, the musical scene in China changed drastically. The lively music that once filled the dance halls of Shanghai's jazz age had virtually disappeared from mainland China. Eventually, the government banned the distribution of yellow music and adopted mass music as its national emblem, which aimed to cry out on behalf of the masses. Meanwhile, Li Jinhui, founder of yellow music, was hounded to his death as a victim of political persecution in 1967. The yellow music of Sinified jazz was much more than a unique musical fusion. The creativity and individualism communicated through its free rhythm and rebel improvisations are what make it such a democratic musical form. Jazz is a good barometer of freedom, declared the great jazz pianist Duke Ellington. The music is so free that many people say it is the only unhampered, unhindered expression of complete freedom yet produced in this country. Hence, the story of yellow music reveals a democratic form of music in a communist state. Its perseverance through multiple attempts to ban its existence also reveals the story of the Chinese people, especially those in Shanghai, and their quiet rebellion. While the government banned the distribution of yellow music, it did not disappear. The music simply found its way back. Since 1978, jazz, along with other forms of yellow music, have trickled back into China. Many now view yellow music as the individual freedom of expression that was long suppressed under Mao. Just as with the theory of evolution, life cannot be contained. It requires necessary dissonance for its strength. To quote Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park,
"John, the kind of control you're attempting is, it's not possible. Listen, if there's one thing the history of evolution has taught us, it's that life will not be contained. Life breaks free, it expands to new territories, and it crashes through barriers painfully, maybe even dangerously, but life finds a way.
Here, life is yellow music. Here, yellow music has found its way.